let me see. I would like to introduce a few friends of mine. We have some special guests here, and I see that they are both in the room and ready to go. So I'd like to introduce you to my friends Beth Carrison, co-founder of TBC United, as well as patient advocate to the Federal 2020 Alpha-Gal Syndrome Subcommittee, which serves the Federal Tick-Borne Disease Working Group under the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as Dr. Jennifer Platt, also co-founder of TBC United, and is the CEO and founder of Tick Warriors, which offers multiple eco-friendly tick prevention products. And both of these ladies, they're friends of mine. They are fierce advocates for people like themselves, and I guess myself, diagnosed with tick-borne conditions. So welcome, ladies. I know it's early, but we are glad to have you here. And apologize, it's hard to get really cute and made up at 4 a.m. So I'm on camera, but not at my best appearance. So welcome.
Thank you.
Look beautiful as usual.
Oh, thanks.
How are you?
I am good. Welcome to Patriot Soapbox.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. So, ladies, tell us a little bit, about yourselves, or how do you want to start off with our morning here?
Big discussion. Where do we start, huh?
Right. So
that conversation all too well when you go out to eat and somebody says, "What do you have allergies?" And you say,
well, where do I begin?
I know. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'll introduce myself. I'm here in Massachusetts. I also have a little place in southern Maine, and so I'm up here in the New England area. There's definitely lots of ticks. Lyme disease is well known up in this area, but many of the other conditions are starting to take notice, like anaplasmosis, which a 90-year-old friend of mine just got sick with that, and or Lyme, or, same old struggles, different day, doctors refusing to test and treat, and
right.
just because they're just not aware, they're just really not educated. So anyhow, my son's had Lyme twice. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease and alpha-gal syndrome. And so that's how you and I met, right?
Yes,
years ago. I can't even remember where that was or when that was, but that was...
I showed up at one of your talks down in North Carolina at the last minute.
Oh, my God.
And I met you down there. It was our first time.
Oh, I love that.
Listeners, what alpha-gal syndrome is.
Yes, let's do that.
Then some of them won't know.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Alpha-gal syndrome is an allergy to carbohydrate or sugar molecule called galactose, alpha-1,3 galactose. Some abbreviated name is alpha-gal, and it's found only in mammals. So not humans, not old world apes, but things that we would typically eat out of the grocery store here in the United States, such as beef, pork, lamb, hunters, that would be venison. Up in Maine, I know some people who eat beaver, so they eat beaver or squirrel. And it's not just the meat, it's in, we use the animal up so well, so it ends up in hair care and makeup, and even the makeup bristles, toothpaste.
I actually will show that triggers video whenever you'd like.
Oh, yeah. Perfumes, soaps. And what's especially concerning is that it's in a lot of pharmaceuticals. So like vaccinations, over-the-counter medications, prescription medications, including some of the adhesives that they use when they, you go into the ER and they apply the pads onto your chest to, get your heart monitor or tape down that IV line. That can be problematic. So alpha-gal syndrome is not just a meat allergy. It's something that keeps you on your toes 24/7. It's relentless. There's not a day off. And it could be anything that goes in, on, or around you.
Yeah.
And it's not just like itchiness, it's a severe potentially life-threatening.
Right.
Well,
That's right. Yeah. Full-blown anaphylaxis. Yeah, been there a few times from somebody's perfume, unfortunately. So, but so that's alpha-gal syndrome. And so because of alpha-gal syndrome, I joined some online support groups, and that's how Jennifer Platt and I met online. So all of us met because of this condition, and really was because of an online network. So I think that's significant to mention as well, because that's pretty much the only support that's out there for people with alpha-gal.
Am I muted?
There ever had to be a silver lining out of what's happened to all of us? That's it. Is that the arachnids, numerous sticks, have brought us together.
I couldn't believe it so I started getting sick maybe in 2015, 2016. I've lost track of the years now. But it took me months and months just to figure out that it was certain meats that were making me sick. And then I looked everywhere. I tried, sulfates, I don't know. I could not figure it out until finally I found, an article about alpha-gal, and I still could find very little on it. So I started the Facebook group for alpha-gal Virginia and figured, well, if I don't know about it, maybe there's a lot of other people who don't. And then I found you guys. So they're really, when I started then, there was so much less than there is now. And a lot of that is thanks to you guys, the advocacy that you've been doing, and this reach of awareness that y'all have been able to, help provide. And so thank you for that.
Yeah, I'd love to see the localization of the groups that have spawned off, because then, people are starting to meet together. And there's such value in that. I remember, even though Jennifer and I had started doing work and everything, it wasn't until I actually was in a room full of other people like me that it really, I don't know, it just connected at such a deeper level for me.
Right.
It was physically meeting everyone that I've been talking with at all hours of the night, was they're going through anaphylaxis and they're in the hospital, or they're, struggling at work or their child at school or something like that. And then just meeting them is just really such value. So I'm happy to see that.
There really is, because it feels very isolating. And, a lot of things, like some things you just don't want even, you're embarrassed to share. I'd wake up, sick in all sorts of ways for hours and hours and hours. You don't want to go spreading the word about that. Like, hey, can you help me out? Doctors turning people away. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? We know that so many people have been, thought to be crazy and turned down by their doctors.
I'd like to jump in. I'm glad you said
Please.
that, Elizabeth, because I think anytime people have just a myriad of unexplained symptoms, especially around GI symptoms, that can be acid reflux, it can be stomach pains, diarrhea, vomiting, anything associated with your gastrointestinal system that is just unexplained, and you go to the doctor and they can't come up with a cause. That is primary, a huge, opportunity to go and get tested for alpha-gal syndrome.
Right.
As well as, especially in the middle of the night, because the big thing about this allergy that is so different to medical science from all other allergies is that the symptoms take anywhere from 2 to 10 hours to show up most of the time. There are
delayed reactions, yeah.
Right. It is the extremely delayed reaction. And so it's hard to connect cause and effect. Now, occasionally people will have some people have airborne reactions, and that can be pretty immediate. But most of the time, people are waking up in the middle of the night with a stomach ache, with and even with, trouble breathing and it feels like asthma or something like that, even anaphylaxis, they're ending up in the emergency room. And so there's this huge number of cases where patients, they're just having ongoing problems and not getting diagnosed.
And the fact that it can affect multiple systems, you got your nervous system, your the gastrointestinal system, but skin, everything, your mental state, your ability to focus on things, remember things, and a lot of people, in fact, anxiety and all this, so it's easily misdiagnosed, and some people go 18, 20 years or more without it. But I've really recognized, and from being in the groups, that the diagnosis times seem to be getting shorter and shorter. And I think that is awesome because people are starting to, in fact, I think it's because some of the work that y'all have done that people are like doctors are starting to report things sooner, or test right away for things after certain things are being, reports that, that they're saying coming in with complaints. After any tick bite, they're doing tests for such things now.
So I recently went to the Food Allergy Research and Education Network or organization annual conference down in DC, and there were a lot of doctors. It was definitely a patient-centered event, but there were a lot of doctors there, and folks from the CDC and USDA, I believe. USDA was there, and doctors from all over. And you better believe at every conversation opportunity, I mean, hi, how are you? What's your allergy? I'm like right in because I want that exchange to educate about alpha-gal syndrome. And I was really surprised by the number of people who actually had heard of it through a news article. But I was really shocked at how many physicians had not heard of it at all.
Right.
Still. And even a couple that had heard of it, they had such old, outdated information, and they were absolutely set that was that. And I was like, here's my card. Please Google my name. And when you have questions, let me know.
Right.
Like, you're going to find the information on my website. I was like, the information is not updated. It's not, it's coming. And in fact, the CDC website didn't even have alpha-gal until just about a year ago. And that was on the heels of Jennifer and I getting involved talking with the Federal Advisory Committee, the tick-borne working group. And the day we first spoke, it was Jennifer and I and two other advocates from some of the Facebook groups. And we did really well, I think, representing alpha-gal. And from that moment forward, they entered alpha-gal into the conversations. And a report went to Congress last year in favor of including funding for alpha-gal syndrome in the U.S. tick-borne disease research. And so that's great. But now you have to put that into law. And then you have to go ask for the money. I mean, the work is so complex. There's so many moving parts to this. And, now being involved in the alpha-gal syndrome subcommittee for the tick-borne disease working group, it's a slow process. But I will say this, I hang up that phone every week, choking back tears. Honestly, I am blown away at how well received every single thing we have been dealing with has been accepted.
That's fantastic.
I am like, not one thing was discredited. Not one.
That's fantastic. It's hard to get that kind of recognition and support these days in Congress as something that we kind of discuss around here a lot, how things go slowly. So I really commend you guys for all the hard work you've put into that. And I know that you get a lot of the community to assist in letter writing and that sort of thing. And that reminds me, people listening, remember to write down any questions you might have. We'll get to those in a few minutes. I want to also give Dr. Platt here, Jennifer, a moment to speak on, if there's any more you wanted to add on the, why it's critical now, this awareness, and so forth. And we can talk about some Thanksgiving survival tips if you have some, because this is a rough time for people.
Thank you very much. If I had anything to add, I would say that I feel like tick-borne diseases are the unknown public health epidemic. So the whole reason I'm sitting here is because back in 2011, I got bitten and I got a disease called ehrlichiosis. And as I was working on my doctorate in public health, that was kind of the ultimate irony. And, I had this general sense that ticks are bad. We know they give people diseases. You hear a lot about Lyme disease.
Right.
Don't hear very much about all the other they're still collectively called other conditions. Have ehrlichiosis, Rocky Mountain spotted fever. I think in the southern United States, that's almost a household word, unfortunately.
Right.
We have viruses, and we have such as
virus
that the former Senator Kay Hagan recently passed away from.
Right.
And there's very little research overall that has been done about a lot of the lesser known conditions. And that's one of the reasons that Beth and I actually formed a nonprofit called Tick-Borne Conditions United. Right. So, check us out at tbcunited.org. And we are really dedicated to educating as many people as we can about the lesser known conditions. And those include some of the ones I've just named. We especially are working hard to educate healthcare providers, because that's the first point of contact often for people that are feeling ill. They go to their healthcare provider, and many healthcare providers, their information is so old. They don't understand the latest state of the art knowledge about what is going on with various tick-borne conditions. And that's why things like alpha-gal syndrome are going undiagnosed. But as you said, they're getting better as more awareness happens. So that's, one of the things that I would really like to emphasize is to check out that we are trying really hard to educate healthcare providers and also patients and just the general public to empower, because knowledge is power, right? The more you know, anytime you have a myriad of unexplained symptoms,
right,
especially if you have flu-like symptoms in the summertime, then you just need to know that the tick-borne diseases are one of the things that it can be. A lot of times people don't even know they've gotten a tick bite, but if you live in an area that's endemic to ticks, and really the eastern half of the United States and many places out west, that ticks are spreading and more species
right.
spreading.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned a couple things there. As far as the doctors and the training and stuff, that's astoundingly necessary. I mean, when I started looking into it a couple years ago, it seemed like we knew more than the doctors knew about alpha-gal. It seemed like nearly like no one we talked to, except for, of course, our favorite couple who led the way.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Have you heard of Dr. Google?
Yeah, right.
A lot of doctors do not like Dr. Google, but we know from research studies that, as recently as a couple of years ago, a study came out that over half of alpha-gal syndrome patients were initially self-diagnosing. And then they were going to their healthcare providers and say, I think I have this.
Yeah.
Me. and it's crazy.
That's what I did. I wasn't diagnosed for at least 8 months after I came to the realization of what was going on. And then the other point too was you mentioned regions, and one of the questions that I'd had was, some people seem to have a misconception, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not a misconception. You can tell us. Are there regions that are safe in the United States that don't really have problems, or is it just? It seems to me now that it is everywhere. That there's really, with the spreading, bird migration, whatever, people, airplanes take things back and forth. And then just nature itself. It just seems like there is no really safe place for, to avoid ticks.
Cruise ship? I don't know.
Oh God! Right. Cruise ship had its own problems. I wouldn't go on those petri dishes on the ocean for another while yet. But
that's another show.
That's another show, exactly.
I would say that the safest area is probably the desert, because ticks cannot survive heat.
Right.
They love humidity, so of course they're going to thrive in the southern United States. And they're adapted to cold as well. I mean, we do find there's 899 species of ticks on the planet.
Oh my gosh.
Repeat that number for us, Jen, please.
899 ticks species on the planet.
Wow. That is just amazingly disgusting.
You're right. Even Billy Jim's like, okay, wow. He's popping in.
The animal on the farm here.
Not all of those bite humans, right? So they're very, but
it's
when you get to specific areas. So, for example, I live in North Carolina, and we have 6 species of ticks that are known to bite humans. Virginia is probably the same.
See, I have
dogs, cats,
sheep, horses, and a ton of deer. And plus I've got the bottomlands right here with a lot of the dead pines and that, and the bottoms that have been struck by lightning and everything. And I mean, I'm close to the Gulf, but still 35 miles by the crow flies, 40 miles above the Gulf. But still, you get the prevailing winds and everything, and the cold north winds blow right across the pines and come over here. But I have to check the cats, the horse's under the horse's mane and around his tail there, and constantly. And I'm not going to say a lot. I really had the problem when I had my dogs down here in Florida, but surprising enough, I haven't found any on the sheep, but I still check around them. We don't put collars or halters on them, but the goats have halters on them, and we had to check the goats next door at pastures and that. And I've only found 2 in 18 years down here on horses. I was just wondering, because I know with the deer ticks and everything, and I mean, I've lived all over the country, so I know about the ticks up in Ohio and Colorado, Rocky Mountain spotted fever out there, and Texas, a couple different places, all over, and every area has its own problems, and that
right.
You can't just assume it's just check yourself for ticks. You have to check the animals too. I mean,
definitely. Now, let's see. Jennifer, you've done a lot of in the lab study with ticks. when you were working on tick warriors and developing products and such. It's amazing some of the things they can live through and survive. And, Billy Jim, you're down there in very wet country, and they like that, don't they? Am I mistaken in that?
No, you're correct. And ticks are incredibly resilient. There's a lot of great research out there that we're trying to get the entomologists to build upon. And Old Dominion has done some really great research, especially on the Lone Star ticks and some other ticks in the southern United States. And they did find that ticks can survive for over 80 days in water. So they're extremely resilient. Like I said, wow. The main thing that's going to kill ticks is heat. And that's, if people leave this conversation with one thing that they remember is, when you come inside from being outside, out in the great outdoors, and your first impulse to, first, of course you want to check for ticks, but to throw your clothes in the washer is your first impulse. And that's really not going to kill the ticks that might be in your clothing. What you need to do is throw them in the dryer for 10 to 15 minutes. And that's just a very simple tip that doesn't cost any money.
Oh.
Just throw your clothes in the dryer for 10 to 15 minutes on high, and that's going to kill any ticks.
Wow. Thank you.
That right there is such a good Thanksgiving tip, because I don't know about in your area, but here in Massachusetts, there's a lot of Thanksgiving Day community walks the night before Thanksgiving and the morning of Thanksgiving. So, people go trudging off into the local parks. They come back, throw the clothes in the dryer for 10.
Well, and hunting too. I live in North Carolina, but I grew up in Arkansas in the Ozarks, and I'm actually home now in Arkansas, but my grandpa would always go hunting on Thanksgiving Day. So hunters need to also be especially aware, because we do know a growing number of hunters who are coming down with alpha-gal syndrome, and that's the worst, because they're out there usually hunting deer, and now they're not able to eat the venison that they've gone out to get.
Wow. Thank you for all the information.
If I can say two of those things. What's that?
Sorry, I can't see Honeybee talking.
I was muted. I didn't realize. Or did I interrupt? I don't know.
You couldn't hear what you were saying.
Oh, okay. So that was it. All right. Well, I wanted to, before we moved on, I know there's more facts about prevention and such. I'd love to hear from you guys and what you do with training and all. But we also wanted to talk a bit about the Lyme disease legislation. But before we leave alpha-gal, I want to play this quick video. It's very short, and it is called Triggers and Such. And it is things to avoid or be aware that could set off a reaction. So we'll take a little 1 minute break here from conversation, and I'll share this up.
This is a great video.
it's the byproducts that are amazing. There's so many things.
Yes.
Just the mammals.
So I have to tell you, I show this video a lot.
Do you?
I do. I incorporated.
That explains where all these views came from. Somebody's watching.
It's so funny. It sparks a lot of conversation, and all the slideshows and pictures and everything. One of the most commonly asked questions of all the things that you see, people go, "What's with a baked potato?" That's it always catches people. Baked potato?
Baked potato. I don't even remember seeing the baked potato, and I made the video.
Well, no. And I'm wondering, because I know I have baked potato is like, it's an embedded picture in one of those things, but it's like you flip through all those things in drywall. People ask about drywall, and I'm like, oh, I can testify to that one after doing building projects, getting covered in hives, from the dust and everything. I'm like, oh, can't be around it. Yeah, that's the next video.
Yes. Well, thank you. And thank you for sharing it. I mean, and it really shows, the magnitude of, of how many things it's in and why people are, who have this condition are struggling at times like this here with Thanksgiving coming up. And we can read that there was a question, however, do ticks go dormant in winter? Let's answer that one real quick.
So the answer is going to be it depends. And yes, there are some ticks species that go dormant in the winter, but then there are other ticks such as the black-legged tick, which is most active in the wintertime. So for example, right now, the black-legged tick, also known as the deer tick, which I prefer to call it the black-legged tick because there are many ticks that walk around on or that hitchhike onto deer. So the black-legged tick's primary activity right now is in the October, November, December timeframe. They are out there any day over 32 degrees. You pretty much, if you live in an area where there are ticks and you're running around in the outdoors, especially where deer are, you should make sure that you're using repellent.
Right. Definitely. Okay, well, let's see real quick to wrap up on Alpha Gal. Survival tips. What are your best survival tips for Thanksgiving? For people, because, people go to other, people's houses, even family, and they can't even eat. They have to hide themselves in their rooms because of the fumes or, something's hiding in those meals. So, it can be either very lonely or you have to answer a lot of questions by bringing your own food.
Well, it's a great question. So first off, I'll say that when I was at FAIR conference here recently, there were a lot of great presentations on new apps that can be used for party planning. So more to come on that. I'll start sharing out some information on that. That some had mechanisms or filters or the way their questions are set up that it would be accommodating for Alpha Gal and all the quirkiness of it. So that was good because that's kind of key because, it's not a top 8 allergen. So in any case, so it looked pretty good. My number one tip is really plan. And that in itself is a big thing. So making sure that first that you're safe, that you have all your EpiPens and Zantac and Benadryl and emergency papers, and
especially if you're traveling.
Yeah, traveling anywhere. If you're going across town to grandma's, or your son or daughters, make sure that you have your emergency paperwork with you so that somebody knows who to call in case of an emergency and what to do. So that's number one. That's like your ER plan. Then the other plan is plan on having that conversation with whoever's coming to your house, or if you're going to
right, because people sometimes bring in things to your home that are a danger as well.
Right.
So yeah, definitely. And I am trying to encourage, I haven't been on Facebook as much as I should, but I'm trying to encourage people who who plan to be alone because, they just don't have, either the people to go to or they're not comfortable with the people usually who provide those dinners. Make a connection with someone who's had this a while, and vice versa. If you've got it, open your house to someone that's in the group, that might be in the group to doing this. Now I see we've had some questions come in. So maybe we'll move the Lyme legislation to the end and answer a few questions they've been asking about this prevention and what kind of things they can use for prevention and stuff. And so I think that's right up y'all's alley. So please take it away there.
Okay, great. Well, I will start off, and Beth, if you have anything to add in, feel free to.
Right.
Number one thing to do is use repellent, right? We've heard for many years that you should use repellent on your skin. However, now there are repellents that you can use on your clothing. So in addition to using repellent on your skin, we advise people to spray your clothing as well as your shoes. So those are the number one lines of defense when you're out, right, in nature, walking around. Their lower ticks are hanging out lower to the ground, and if you have repellent on your shoes and your pants legs, that's going to help keep them away. So there's a whole range of repellents out there. Heard of DEET for your skin. And there are also natural repellents out there. And that's one of the reasons that I started Tick Warriors, which you mentioned earlier in the show. And we sell all natural products that are not only safe for us and the environment, but they are effective. And that is a key word, right? We have studies where on a 2-hour window, the natural repellents that we sell at Tick Warriors will go up against DEET and permethrin just as effectively. So it's all about options.
Right. They're eco-friendly, pet-friendly, kid-friendly.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and isn't the active ingredient on the CDC list?
Yes. So the active ingredient in our skin, in our repellent that actually works both on skin and clothing is called undecanone. And that's a really funky word, but the bottom line is it's from the wild tomato plant.
Okay.
So a bunch of scientists at NC State University in Raleigh, I don't know, they're sitting around deciding we should see how well the wild tomato plant works. But right. It is the only all natural ingredient that's on the CDC list that's recommended. It's so safe, it's recommended for pregnant women.
That's fantastic. Sister Go, would you mind sharing that link? It's tickwarriors.com. Is that correct? Yeah, tickwarriors.com. And also just so you know, their website for TBC United is tbcunited.org. So if we can get that into chat for people as well. Now, hopefully I'm not, yeah.
I was going to say,
ahead.
And it's alpha-gal safe.
Yes, yeah, and it's alpha-gal safe, which is definitely a bonus there. We need that. So
those are those little things that we talk about, in the working group. And I say that you can't imagine the impact, right? So from all this emotional aspect that you talked about before to now, how do you protect yourself, right?
Right.
We have limited options.
I mean, it's crazy what we've learned. Like, you blew me away, Jennifer, with your talk about, learning about ticks and how they hunt you down. The Lone Star ticks, they are very aggressive. They don't just sit and wait for you to walk by and fall off a tree on you. They, can smell you coming and they will run aggressively to find you. If that's correct. Yeah.
Yes, it is. They are. They did some really great research out of Old Dominion again, where they figured out how to wire an electrode to a tick to measure its response. The professor had his students stand at the end of the hallway. I was in this really long hallway, and they gauged how far away the student was when the tick would respond.
That's amazing.
We also worked with a high school student in the past year who, for his science project, his award-winning science project, and Sister Girl, we can send you the link to that. But his award-winning science project was to compare all the different species of ticks that he looked at, like three or four, and how much they would react to CO2. And they said that the Lone Star tick would literally raise her front legs and start running.
Oh my God. It makes me just not want to go outside, you know?
It's really, it is. And that's why, that's what is life if you can't live it and enjoy the great outdoors? And that's one of the key reasons I started Tick Warriors, because I wanted to give people tools to effectively protect themselves so they can go outside without constantly being in fear. And
Right.
that's really a three-pronged approach. I've talked about people protecting your person, but you also need to protect your pets and your property.
Yes, and our kids, like sweet little Ree in the background there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
If you'll go to our website, we've got protection, and I know you mentioned earlier, Billy, about the about your livestock and dogs, and we've got a really great product on our website called Ticks Off, and it's you spray it on their fur once a week and rub it in, and it actually keeps ticks from latching on.
That's awesome.
So this brilliant woman, horsewoman, said, if the ticks can't latch on to my horses and my dogs, then they can't come inside, right? Well, maybe you don't bring your horses inside. Certainly.
I don't know. Billy Jim might. Oh, there we go. She's sharing them.
With my disability, I wear sweats. I have to wear sweats all the time. So sweatpants, they attach to the sweatpant material and just walking around.
Yep.
And out there, and so I normally always, and because we have such prolific fire ant problem down here, I'm always checking my clothes just before I come up on the porch and everything. And sometimes I'll brush my pants off and that. But I like the idea now. If I find something, all I have to do is just pop my sweats off and throw them right in the dryer for a little bit.
Yes, that's a great tip.
That's a great tip. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And let's see, I think in the upper right corner there's the the Tick Warriors products for your yard. So we've got a yard spray, and all the way to the right, the yard spray is for your grassy areas. It's going to immediately kill not only ticks, but also fleas and chiggers, and it kills mosquitoes as well. So you can use that. The active ingredient is a soap. It's got other things like citric acid, coconut oil. So it's all natural products that are safe enough literally to spray around children and pets. I know I had one client recently that I was outside spraying, and her toddler was running around this way and her cats were ambling through the yard over here. So that is a really great product. There's no dry time required for that. And then the complementary product to that is our, were you going to say something?
Can I say, I thought what was really appealing about this, aside from that I could use it safely for me with Alpha-Gal, but my house up in Maine, remember that was the first question. I was like, well, I have like 400 feet of lakefront. I can't have anything toxic going in the water. And you were like, nope, this is good. Yeah. So this is perfect because
spray around
that's a big concern.
Not toxic at all. And then, Sister Girl, if you'll go all the way to the right again to the Tick Warriors, let's see, to the right of the yard spray is the Tick Warriors pest control product. Should be over to the right. It looks the same. And we have a large version of this too for spraying your yards. And that is going to use that for natural areas. Let's see if you can go back to the page that you were on and under yard and keep scrolling to the right. Under yard, let's see, to the right there, the yard spray. There should be the pest control product. Do you see that? For property.
I see 3. Eco Blend Weed Killer, Bio.
If you click under for property, maybe it'll show up. This is a kind of a new design of our website.
Well, y'all done a great job all around, both your sites. And
oh, yeah, there it is, the Tick Warriors Pest Control. So I especially want to highlight that because that is for wooded areas. So where I live, and you know, we kind of touched on this briefly a while ago, Billy, when you're talking about animals, but deer are tick factories.
yes.
So for the Lone Star tick, all life cycle stages of the tick thrive on deer blood, larva, nymph, adults. And this product here is a incredible repellent. It not only kills ticks, but it also provides an ongoing residual repellent, and it is for natural areas. Okay, so you're going to spray this in your wooded borders that are around your yards, for example, in leaf litter, because that's where the ticks are coming out, and that's where they're able to keep that moisture content so they can survive. But we highly recommend people to use the two together, but especially this product for natural areas, because that's what's going to not only kill ticks, but it's also going to provide a long, ongoing residual repellent. And I'll tell a quick story about one of my clients runs a camp that's outdoor camp for children, and they are outside literally all day, every day. And historically, they in the woods. So historically, she would hand out what she called tick tape, you know, piece of tape to her counselors. And over the course of the day, the kids, as they got ticks on them, would bring them and turn them into the counselors. So at the end of the day, they were handing a roll full of tape of ticks in to the director. We started spraying for them a very consistent program. And over time, now it has become to the point where they don't even remember to hand out the tick tape to the counselors because there are so few ticks.
That's amazing. That is really amazing. In fact, I don't know, what y'all done has really made an impact on this whole community, and in all sorts of realms. You know, you got hunters and kids at camp, and you know, just people in their own yards. We are at 8. It is 8:47, so we're pretty much 10 minutes to the top of the hour. So I don't want to completely miss out on any more questions that might have popped up. I don't know, sister, if you're able to see any more of those. But also, we wanted to touch on this legislation, the Hagen, do I have that right?
Hagen Tick Act.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about that. I know we've probably got some people out there with Lyme disease listening, and this will be important to them as well.
Okay. So I didn't know, Jennifer, if you wanted to take that or if I would. There's a very strong coalition that, has formed. Many different Lyme groups have come together, which is quite historic, I think. And the way they've done it has been really, really in full unity. It's really, really nice. So in any case, Senator Susan Collins from Maine and Tina Smith put together the TIC Act, which got renamed recently to the Kay Hagan TIC Act in honor of Kay Jennifer is former senator who recently passed away from complications from Powassan virus. So I thought that was a beautiful tribute. But they put this together to help put the actions that were recommended to Congress from the working group, the first draft report that went last year and got approved. Now we have to ask for that stuff to get put into motion, right? So that's pretty much that's a lot of that work. Now we have full bipartisan support, and we need. Where are we now, Jennifer? How many more do we need? Is it another? No, we have 20 something.
Yeah, we have many co-sponsors, and it's such an amazing bipartisan initiative, right? Because ticks don't discriminate on whom they bite. And
they sure don't.
They don't. And it is everybody that they're biting. And this has been an amazing initiative that was spearheaded, as Beth said, by the senators from Maine and Minnesota.
Yep.
And so we are looking, especially there are some states where we're still trying to get some of the senators to co-sponsor. And I don't know if you're pulling up that list or not. But
I know, I'm trying to.
In Arkansas, we have one senator that has sponsored it. Senator Bozeman has co-sponsored it, but we're also looking for Senator Cotton to sign on as well as a co-sponsor. So if you're in Arkansas, you should right there. In Virginia, we're still trying to get the senators to sign on as co-sponsors, both of them. So we encourage people to write or call in and ask them to do it. This is all very time sensitive. I mean, this bill will go before the Senate any day.
Yep.
We're expecting it to go before them for a vote.
So I want to say that this is really organized by the Center for Lyme Action. Mm-hmm. You can Google them. There was about 125 people that attended the kickoff of this initiative in DC, and Jennifer and I attended that, and it was just incredible. Really, we've got a lot of momentum going and a lot of great minds trying to help work the problem out. But now, so in a week's time, they had over 130 organizations. We all work together with Senator Collins' office about every other day. Since then, when did we go down? I can't remember. October 22nd. So about every other day, and now we're down to about once a week. We're meeting with Senator Collins' office and making phone calls to different organizations like hunting organizations and agricultural departments and veterinarian offices, at the state level, and just trying to get everybody to support it to help get it moving through. So really quite historic stuff. So I'll send you the link on that so you guys can.
Please do. Yeah. I don't want to cut off conversation on this, but we do have several questions coming in I want to be sure to get to. First one being that someone says, in the past 50 years, I've worked and played around the central east coast of Florida. I don't remember ticks being this dangerous back in the 70s and 80s. What changed?
So I would say there's been several factors that have changed, but one of the largest factors that I think scientists are agreeing on is the increase in the deer population.
Yeah.
And I can't speak to that. My suspicion in northern Florida, from what I know, is that would probably be a factor there as well.
Makes sense.
The other thing that's also very related is what they call the increase in edge. So anytime, a lot of the developments that we're building now have concentrations of houses with greenways around them and woods around them. And so anytime, what they call is the edge is those greenways, and you have more and more interaction between humans and nature, that where the ticks are being transported on and off of all different kinds of wildlife, like you said, it's not just deer, it's also anything that's, crawling on the ground and flying too as well. The ticks are traveling around on birds in addition.
Well, that makes sense. Okay. So someone wants to know, does a shower wash off ticks that you can't see, baby-sized, and will bleach kill ticks?
So ticks, because they can survive in water, it's not guaranteed that a shower or bath is going to wash them off. One of our products at Tick Warriors that we have is a soak remover. It's called Toto, Tick On, Tick Off. And that is that's probably the only tick remover I know of that works for, to wash off ticks in the shower. So you're going to need to do a tick check, especially the soft areas. So there it is right there, Toto Tick Remover. That's a great product for washing off ticks that you don't see. And
I watched that in live at your house when I went down to visit. I could not believe that stuff. That is incredible. You put it on, this little white dog had fleas on it. They put the thing on it. I was like, boom, dead. I was like, where's this pen? All the cats we've had over the years. I'm like, oh, it's really
amazing.
Great stuff. Yeah. And none of the stuff smells bad either, I have to say, because I'm kind of picky about that.
The other thing that I will say about Toto is any of you that have experienced a chigger infestation know how horrible chiggers can be, right? They leave these welts that itch and they get infected. It is awful. And Toto actually is a game changer for people that are in chigger infested areas, in my opinion, because you come in, you wash off with that, and it's going to get any of those chiggers on you off.
Wow. Well, I wish we had a whole nother hour to talk about this. I know there's some other questions that have come in, but we are very close to the top of the hour, and I don't want to get cut off by the reset that comes in at 9:00. We have a hard shutdown, and I want to thank you both so much for being here. I know it's not the most glorious of topics for people to join in, but I appreciate everyone who's come in to listen and into this conversation. It is important. You never know when it could be you or someone in your family, and it is.
We'll be happy to come back. We can talk about ticks all day.
I'll bet you could. I know you. I've seen you do it.
With her?
It's been very informative.
Thank you.
Yes, very informative.
Thank you. Be safe, everyone. Remember, repellent up on the way out and stick the clothes in the dryer on the way in.
That's right. That's a great tip. Campanon, thank you for being here.
And everyone say hi to little Ree.
Hi, Ree.
She's been listening.
Hello, Ree.
Yes, she has.
But hey, it was very fun hanging out with you all this morning.
Oh, I appreciate it, and we hope to see you again next Sunday. And I hope all of you have a great Thanksgiving. Alpha Gal safe. Ree. And there's Pam coming in. So yes, this is just a little. Good morning. Our little unusual news channel
we're
here.
about to get booted here, so bye.
All right. Well, thank you. Love you all. We will see you on the other side. Thanks, guys.
Take
Thank
care,
you,
everybody.
lady.
All right, folks, here we go. Buckle
There
up.
we go.